sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District is called to order at 1:09. Machine is open for roll call.
Where is it? All right, we can see.
Let the record reflect that 6 council members are present, so we have a quorum. Absent at this time are council members from District 1, District 3, and District 9. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Marinovich, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. The port meeting will be brief today, and we'll move on to council business as soon as it's over. Item 2, executive session. There is no executive session. Item 3, we'll have our status report from our executive director, General Sandy Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow board members, I'm Sandy Sanders. I'm the Executive Director of Plaquemines Port. I started on Monday, and the staff is very busy training me. They sent me home every night. I've learned 2 words. One is St. Bernard Parish, and another one is marsh instead of marsh, the way we pronounce it elsewhere. But they've given me 2 words every day to learn the meaning of. There's nothing really significant to report since I came here on Monday, other than we have scheduling appointments with community and business leaders, our elected officials, both local, state, and on a national basis. We are arranging meetings up in Washington, D.C. for the 19th and 20th of September to meet our elected officials. And subject to your questions, that is where we are right now.
Thank you, Sandy. I know you've had a hectic week, and just like to get you up so people could see who you are and recognize you. Any questions from council members? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Move to item 4. There are no bids and advertisements. Item 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Hinckley? I have several. An ordinance authorizing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to accept funds from Port Security Grant Program number EMW 2011 PUK 00163 for software and systems maintenance and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 12-139 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing and directing the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to call and schedule a closed meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Port Committee per the authority granted by the Open Meetings Law for the following purposes. 1, confidential communications regarding the appraisal and negotiations for acquiring certain properties within Plaquemines Parish. And 2, the legal issues to be considered with the potential transfer of ownership of the Edna LaFrance Building, 124 Edna LaFrance Road, Braithwaite, Louisiana, from the Plaquemines Parish government to the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Marinovich, any introductions? None. Mr. Burris? Mr. Turner? Mr. Edgecombe? Move to item 6A. 6A will be deferred. Item 6B, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District 2013 operating expenditure budget personal services and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I will offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Mr. Burris. The purpose of this ordinance is, although the administration of the port has the authority to transfer budgeted funds between line items on personnel, we wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the budget is being, monies are being transferred from certain areas of the personnel budget to other areas for personnel that have come on, in particular the executive director. There's been no additional monies budgeted. This is simply a transfer of funds, and I'll answer any questions anyone has. Anyone in the audience? Being no questions, the machine is open. And the ordinance is approved 6-0 with the 3 council members absent. Item 6C, a resolution authorizing the port chairman to accept and execute a contract for the engagement of services between the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and Arlington Ridge Group, LLC, for consulting and advisory services regarding inter alia government representation at the state and federal level and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I will offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Mr. Marinovich. The contract with Arlington Ridge Group, this is a company we have worked with for several years on the government side. Now that the Plaquemines Port is its own entity, it's very critical that we have representation on the state and federal level. The contract has been reviewed by Mr. Ken Rathburn, our special counsel, and with the Arlington Group to come to terms. It's similar to the contract that is being held with parish government, and I'll answer any questions. From the audience, any questions? There being none, the machine is open. And the contract is approved 5-1, with no vote coming from District 6. Item 7, is there any new business to come before the port? I'll move to item 8, the approval of minutes. A, January 13th, 2013, B, January 27, 2013, C, July 11, 2013, and D, July 25th, 2013. I'll offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Mr. Hinckley. Any discussion? Machine is open. And the minutes are approved 6-0. I'll ask for a motion for adjournment. Motion made by Mr. Hinckley and seconded by Mr. Marinovich. Machine is open. And the adjournment has been approved 6-0 at 1:16.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting. We're going to start at 1:21. We'll start off with a roll call. Let the record reflect we have 6 members present. Mr. Griffin has left. I think he was feeling unwell. Ms. Lapine is off right now. Ms. Cooper is welcoming another grandchild, I think, at this time, so they won't be here today. If I'd ask everybody to stand for prayer. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for this parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We also pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen. Okay. We're going to pass over our executive session. I've got a couple of brief, quick announcements I need to make before we get started. One, I don't know if anybody knows, we did have an arson yesterday at the school in Sunrise. I think they have somebody they're looking at, maybe a worker or something, but I think the damage was limited to 4 rooms in the school, and it shouldn't delay the opening of the new school. Also today, I know we have a couple of contentious issues on here, and I would ask everyone to please be civil and respect everyone else's opinions as we discuss those. Most of these are building permits, but respect everybody else's opinion, be courteous and brief with your remarks today. With that, we're going to move to proclamations. Okay, we're going to move to item 4A1, a proclamation declaring August 8, 2013 as the Plaquemines Parish Lady Fury Day in Plaquemines Parish. Mr. Turner, you offering this one? And we're going to ask for unanimous second. Gentlemen, we have that. Okay, well, I guess we need to vote on it now. Machine's open for a vote. Mr. Turner, do you want to? JP, do we have a spokesman for the team or something? Can y'all give us a little overview of what we have going on? Oh, I got something to read here, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, that's fine. What this is, y'all, is a proclamation declaring August 8, 2013 as the Plaquemines Parish Lady Fury Day in the parish of Plaquemines, with that mighty big trophy we have here. After hard work and dedication, the Plaquemines Parish Lady Fury softball team won the 2013 Dizzy Dean Softball World Series. And whereas through team effort and dedication of the softball team, outstanding coaching, hard work, and the love and support of their family and friends, the girls have made Plaquemines Parish proud. And whereas the Plaquemines Parish government and the citizens of Plaquemines Parish wish to congratulate the Lady Fury softball team for their outstanding achievements and accomplishments for the year 2013. Be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Byron Marinovich, in concurrence with the parish president, Mr. Willie Nungasser, representing parish government, that it hereby declares August 8, 2013 as the Plaquemines Parish Lady Fury Day. It extends its congratulations to the Plaquemines Parish Lady Fury team, Abigail Alonzo, Felicia Barber, Kelsey Clement, Callie Fava, Addison Grunmeyer, Trishania Howard, Kelsey Johnson, Julie Latarg, Alyssa Littell, Lauren Nichols, Danielle Stubbs, and Caitlin Tague, and their coaches, Michael Clement, Leon Littell, Mike Nichols, and J.P. Solis. You want to come around and take a picture or something? You want to put a picture of the proclamation?
Hi, I'm Leon Latoul, coach of the Ladies Fury. I just want to say the girls did an outstanding job representing Plaquemines Parish. I'd like to thank the Recreation Department for all their hard work helping us get there. I'd like to thank all of the parents for all the work that they did to help us raise money to get there. All of the local businesses that did help contribute towards our fundraising to get there. The city council and the parish for their support financially. Without them, we couldn't have done it. And just wanted to thank the girls. A great job. Thank y'all for doing everything we asked. And the coaches, thank y'all for all y'all hard work. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, no problem. JP, by the way. Nice meeting you. Yeah, why don't y'all do that? I think that would be more fun.
Nobody will leave.
Y'all need some togetherness, you know?
Oh, wow. We'll put something on the stove, you know?
Backup battery, you just hit it.
I'm done. I'm gonna take some advice from my friend Anthony for once.
There's nothing to say, really.
Get boots on.
Up
Kick
or
me right
down?
here.
Up or down, man?
Gonna move to item. Sorry. We're gonna move to item 2, bids and advertisements. I don't believe we have any today, do we? I already know about that. Item 2, bids and advertisements. None. Do we have the that la ya ya? Are they here today? Are they here? Let's get this. So I don't have to stay. Let's move to item 7G, y'all. We have a presentation by Louisiana young artists and young authors. I'm gonna do that. I'll probably do that next. I'm gonna get it over with. Yeah, they're here. I just want to get them out of here. No, I'm just trying to get. This is kids. Oh, look at the kids out of here.
I'm sorry, I'm a little short.
If you could just give us your name and where
Yes,
you're
of
from
course.
for the record.
My name is Joni Hughes, or Jo, as a lot of people call me, and I'm the director and founder of Louisiana Young Artists and Young Authors. We're a group of Belle Chase artists. There's about 52 of us, ranging in age from 7 to 17, of course, me being the exception. And only a few of us are here today, and they're not all going to speak, so let's not get nervous. But we just wanted to, we're going to hold it down to less than 7 minutes as we promised, and we'll try to even reduce it a little bit. We just wanted to kind of tell you guys about what we do and why we're here, and what we could really use is some support from the community. We take care of all of our supplies and everything ourselves. We recently started meeting at the back room of the library, which is wonderful, and we truly do appreciate it. However, what happens is we often get bumped because of different organizations that need the space, or, for instance, there's several weeks in October and November that we can't use it because of early voting and the elections and the machines being sequestered in there, all those things. So we need some space for these young people to work. These are amazing artists. Just to give you a real quick, brief example, we have a couple of young people that are not yet old enough to vote, but soon will be, that have already published their first novel, and it's available at bookstores nationwide through La Yaya. And we have musicians that are in high school and middle school who are releasing a 1940s-style jazz ensemble CD this summer, working with Kermit Ruffins. And we have 2 La Yaya members who are the first ever to audition for and be awarded a spot on the NFL Saints drumline. One of them is my son, and I'm very proud. And they're high school students, and the rest of the musicians are adults. So they actually competed against working musician adults for those spaces. And tomorrow night they perform at the preseason game. The Aga Museum of Southern Art has offered to host a La Yaya showcase with all of our Belle Chase artists this spring, and an art exhibit. We have several of our visual artists from primary school to high school that will be participating at the Oblique Gallery art opening in November. And we have a theater group, which is having our first production October 26th. So as you can see, these are go-getters and all young people, and they've put a lot of work into this. They've done a lot for our community over the last several years, raising a lot of money for different nonprofits in Belle Chase, in Plaquemines Parish. It's only Plaquemines Parish young people that are participating. I have to turn down a lot of young people that want to participate in our parish just because I fund this myself. And like everyone else, I'm on a very tight budget. So we're asking for some support from our community as well as the council here. I believe Mr. Corbin, one of our young artists, has delivered the packets to everyone. And if anyone else needs one, I certainly have extras. Now, I would love, some of our young people have been wanting to address the council, and they're going to hold everything down to 20 seconds or less, and there's only a couple of them. So I appreciate you hearing them out. And I'll introduce the first one. Her name is Jacob Lewis is the first one. He's a musician, and he's our youth peer advisor for the music department, a senior at Belle Chase High School, the band captain, and one of those young men on the Saints drum line, and he's also my son.
Hello, my name is Jacob Lewis. I'm a senior at Belle Chase High School. Liaya is important to me and so many young people of our community because it gives us a team of like-minded peers, mentors, and tools that we need to make good choices for our future. It is much more than an art program. Please take the time to read the packets that we have provided, and I'm sure that you'll agree. Thank you. Next up is Sarah Hotard, Visual Arts Youth Peer Advisor and sophomore at Belle Chase.
Hello, my name is Sarah, and I am a member of an art group called La Yaya, specifically designed for young artists. But La Yaya isn't just any art program, it is the art program to be in. In La Yaya, kids don't just explore the arts, they be who they wish to be, and they have fun doing it. La Yaya gives us the freedom and time to do wonderful things that we love. Unfortunately, without much supplies, we are limited in anything we do. But fund us and help our kids reach their full potential. To be able to explore the arts and give back to the community and expand past the small town without being held back by limited supplies. Because when you limit an art, it's not an art anymore. Thank you.
And next up is Megan. She's one of our visual artists as well.
Hi, I'm Megan Schur, and I'm in 7th grade at Belle Chase Middle School. And Liaya is important to me because it gives me a sense of freedom and creativity that we don't have a lot of time to do at school. It allows all of us, not just me, to express ourselves in what we do, such as music, creative writing, theater, and art. We're all hoping that you will consider us to excel in our lessons and studies in addition to what we do now.
And now we'll hear from just one of the parents, and then I'll wrap things up really quickly so y'all can get back to some business. I'm sorry, Ms. Carla Hotard.
Hello. Well, Yaya is a wonderful organization in giving my daughter and these other young people a safe haven to express themselves. Not all children are interested or good at sports. Although we all enjoy sports, some of them are artists. The arts gives these kids an opportunity to discover and participate in creative writing, theater, music, and visual arts. Liaya has aided these kids in becoming more self-confident and have given them a purpose in life. Ms. Hughes has provided them a chance to feel safe among friends while taking on responsibilities to prime them for their adult life. She gives them deadlines to meet on their art projects. They often mentor the younger children in the program. This has given rise to them exploring some career opportunities in the arts, such as becoming art teachers. My daughter herself, and I'm sure some of the other people, are also experiencing the business side of art by preparing pieces for art shows in the city. She, alongside with Ms. Hughes, has started her own art business. Since joining La Yaya, she has chosen a name for her business, built a website, ordered business cards, and participated in an art market where she sold many of her pieces. And last but not least, La Yaya helps these children, kids, young adults, realize that they make a big impact in the world by giving back to their community. My daughter has chosen Pause as her community project. She has designed an art piece to sell, giving a portion of the proceeds to the local organization that is dear to her heart. Thank you.
And that's all of our speakers for today, and I appreciate y'all taking the time out to listen, and please review the information that the young people put together in your packets. What you see represents the last $48 of our Yaya Fund by printing, so please just take the time to look at them. We appreciate it. In the opening prayer, which was wonderful, we heard about our natural resources, which we were so thankful for. I can think of no better natural resource than the young people of our parish. I am impressed daily by these people, and very often they come in, or they feel that they come in second to a lot of the sports athletes and things like that in our parish, just because that is who gets the most recognition. I love sports. Sports are great. Not every child is an athlete, and while we fund our recreation department at $1.98 million a year, we have zero funding for the arts, for youth arts in this parish. Even in the schools, sports are funded 10 times to $1 per dollar in our parish. We're one of only 7 parishes out of 64 in Louisiana that did not offer any type of youth arts program. It's 1 out of 64. We're one of 7. We need to recognize that these people are the future of our cultural economic development here in the parish, and let them know that we're proud of them and they're important to all of us. I appreciate y'all hearing everything we have to say today, and certainly my information is on there if you want to contact me with any questions. Feel free to do so. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I want to commend you for both you ladies for putting this together, coming to see us today with this. I had Ms. Leslie give you some cards, contact my office, and we'll see if there's some possibility of I don't know how funding, look, money's always tight for everything, but maybe there's something the parish itself can do, or the school board, or in conjunction with them. I want to commend both y'all on having all this doing for what you're doing for the children. And also, who is Nick Noonan? Is he with y'all today?
Nick Noonan isn't with us today.
He's a Holy Cross, a Holy Cross?
He's actually...
That's my alma mater, the reason I was asking.
Oh, okay. Well,
So-
there's actually an article in your packet from the Clarion Herald,
I've
which
seen
is
it.
about Nick Noonan and Leah. He's a young man who
Author.
one of our creative writers. He's a 9th grader. His book was published this year, and he had a big book signing at PJ's Coffee on July the 9th. And we invited everyone, and we always invite everyone to all of our events. And it was nice. It was standing room only, and his book's taking off at the bookstores, so you can get it at a bookstore near you.
Well, good. Thank you very much for coming, and please feel free to contact us, see if we can do something for you. Mr. Hinckley?
I just want to thank you for coming in today, too. I can appreciate the fact that with the athletics, but I'm real big with the arts, and a lot of people that know me, that they know that the arts are really true and dear to my heart here. So I'm going to get your phone number. I'm going to be contacting you. I've already talked to Dr. Gouy here, and I've talked to legal here, so we're going to try to do something and try to find some place where you can call home.
Wonderful.
'cause
We appreciate it.
I think I've got some ideas, and we're going to work real hard at that right there. So
That's beautiful news, and I'm sure
if you don't mind, on your way out, just see Adeline right there and
Absolutely.
give me your name.
And thank you, gentlemen, again. I know that y'all have a lot to take care of today, and I do appreciate the time very much.
Thanks, y'all, for coming out. Okay, we're going to move back to proclamations. Do you have that second one for me? Second proclamation is a proclamation declaring August 11, 2013 as Arthurine Trufant Enclave Day in the parish of Plaquemines. I'll offer and ask for unanimous second. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll go ahead and read. Whereas on December 12, 1946, Miss Arthurine Trufant Enclave was the second born of 9 children to the union of James Stanley Sr. and Marie Griffin Trufant. Her siblings are James Jr., Lloyd Sr., Errol, Irvin Sr., Burnell, and Carrie Trufant Sr., Audrey T. Savant, and Ursula T. Broussard. And whereas she married Alton J. Onklod on November 25, 1972, and is the mother of 3 adorable children, Tyrone Trufant, Trishina Onklod Williams, and Akia Onklod Johnson. She's also mother-in-law to Leslie Trufant, Dr. Christopher Williams, and Coach David Johnson. She's the grandmother of Tyrone, Ashton, Ashai, Misha, Mason, and Karaz. And whereas Arthurine was born and reared in Plaquemines, she received a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education from Grambling State University on December 17, 1971. She later pursued and acquired her Master of Education in Administration and Supervision from Southern University of Baton Rouge on May 13th of '83. Whereas Ms. Arthurine's teaching career spans 40 years in Plaquemines Parish, commencing at Boothville High School on September 1st, 1973. Later, she transferred to Phoenix High in 1976. She became a faculty facilitator at Phoenix High after her commitment to classroom teaching and lecturing for many years. And whereas as a gifted and talented high school athlete, she pursued her passion for sports and became the head coach of the Phoenix Sport and High School girls softball and basketball team for 28 years and won 2 state championships during her tenure. Whereas Ms. Arthurine's teaching career spans 40 years in the Plaquemines Parish School Board system from '73 to 2013. She's a member of the 5th generation of Trufants in Plaquemines Parish and is notably the proud aunt of 3 current NFL players, Marcus Trufant of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Isaiah Trufant of the New York Giants, and Desmond Trufant of the Atlanta Falcons. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Byron Marinovich, in concurrence with the Plaquemines Parish President, Billy Nungesser, representing the Plaquemines Parish Government, that he hereby declares August 11th, 2013 as Arthurine Trufant Onklod Day. The Parish of Plaquemines extends its congratulations and well wishes in her retirement. Okay, we need to...
Thank you, Mr. Marinovich. I'm here today with Arthurine's family, my eldest sister, who we're very proud of, with her youngest daughter, Akia, and her oldest daughter, Trakina, and her son-in-law, Christopher Williams. We're extremely proud of her accomplishment and achievements here in Plaquemines Parish. But the reason there is by design that she's not here. We have a surprise retirement party planned for her this weekend. So we didn't want to let the cat out the bag, per se, by inviting her here, and then she would probably get clues that what our plans are. So at this time, I've asked Ms. Monica Wirtz to come up and give a few words, if you would allow her to, of the Plaquemines Parish School Board.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Plaquemines Parish School Board, its students, its teachers, faculty, and staff, I want to congratulate Ms. Arthurine. I became acquainted with Ms. Arthurine. I've been in the district almost 26 years. Born and raised in Plaquemines Parish. We think the world of our education, we think the world of our parish, we think the world of our schools. But it's people like Ms. Arthurine that stood the course, and in good times and in bad times. And you know the quote, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. And who better than the people of Plaquemines Parish can emulate what I just said? She stayed the course, 40 years as an educator. My work in human resource is the hiring of teachers. This past year, we interviewed over 300 teachers. Of those 300 teachers, we hired 50. We're very selective, and I guess that's why we're ranked 4th in the state of Louisiana. I want to congratulate Ms. Trufant Onklod for her work at Phoenix. I had the pleasure of working head-to-head with her for the past 2 years as my adopted school. It is second to none. It might be a little bitty school, but it has a very big heart. Not forgotten, very talented children, but as equally important, the talented teachers that stay the course with us. So on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish School Board, I want to say thank you, Ms. Onklod, and thank you, teachers, parents, and students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monica.
With that said, I want to thank this council and government for acknowledging my sister's achievements here in Plaquemines Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hardry. If we had no comments, let's go ahead and vote on this. If y'all would, gentlemen, machines open. And it's unanimous vote. Sorry, did y'all want to take a picture of something, maybe?
Testing, okay. Ms. Audrey, would like for you to extend my personal appreciation for the service that your sister has performed in the school system. You know, as you know, she worked alongside my dad for many years there at Phoenix, and she has not only affected the school system, but as you know, she was a major player in impacting the community. And so I just want to personally extend my gratitude and gratefulness for the service that she has provided, not only the school system, but the community. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Turner.
And I want to thank Ms. Worth for taking time from her busy schedule to come over here and participate in this program. Thank you, Ms. Worth.
Okay, thank y'all. With that, we're going to move to item 1B, status report by the parish president. I think Mr. Nungas has an engagement with one of our senators later on, and a little bit in a hurry as usual. Mr. Nungas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, today at 3 o'clock, GNO Inc. is hosting a meeting with the top officials with FEMA and Senator Landrieu to discuss the Biddeford Water Act, which is the biggest issue here in Plaquemines Parish. This issue will do more damage than all the hurricanes we've seen, including Katrina and the oil spill combined to Plaquemines Parish. Not only to the heavily affected areas, but to all of Plaquemines Parish, because under the current status, they can come in at any time and rerun flood maps and change the elevation anywhere in this parish, including in Belle Chase. So it's unacceptable. Failure is not an option in changing this law, not only delaying it, and I feel very confident in the local elected officials across the coast and from Florida to Texas. We were successful at the NACO meeting, the National Association of Counties, in getting them to recognize a coastal coalition under NACO. That was very important for us to have their voice in Baton Rouge and their organization supporting our efforts. We're going to expand that to include the East Coast and any other areas that flood. New York is on board. Recently, a trip to California, which actually has more flooding in Louisiana, and their congressional delegation is now joining as well. So those meetings today hopefully will produce hopefully a clear path forward to change this law to put everyone at ease that is walking on eggshells right now, not knowing the what the outcome's going to be. But I can promise you that we will fix it, because failure's not an option. Also, we're waiting on a letter from the colonel at the Corps I expect to have in the next 2 weeks that will allow us to get our permit to start the first phase of our coastal plan, which is the ridge starting in Venice behind the levee. The council saw the time frame it took to get this permit, and several months ago authorized additional money to start the engineering design and the permitting process for the rest of the reaches all the way up both sides of Plaquemines Parish. So we can kind of get a jump on with the anticipation of the BP money and or the 2017 oil revenues we'll get to continue that process. Remember, that levee, lower storm surge, 5 feet parish-wide. And in some areas, Jesuit Bend included, when those reaches are in place, we will see levees that are not 100-year protection give us 100-year protection. In other areas, we may have to raise the levee to meet that threshold, but our ultimate goal is to provide that level of protection for all of Plaquemines Parish. We have 4 projects underway right now on the Corps. Obviously, the work will begin shortly on the Jesuit Bend Federal Levee, first reach. The Ollie, Diamond, and Duvic pump stations are under construction for the backflow preventers and the storm-proofing and raising those walls. So as we get to those levee lifts, those pump stations will have adequate protection from water flowing in through the back of those pumps. I also want to mention later on the agenda is some money for 2 bridges on the Woodland Highway. As you know, the state widened it to 3-lane and it's between those 2 bridges. The state does not engineer and design bridges. Had we had this process started, we may have gotten 4-lane in the past. I learn as I go on some of this stuff. What we're asking today is for $250,000 to begin the engineer and design of 4-lane bridges. But by us putting up the initial money, we're going to improve the drainage on both of those bridges to accommodate the canal from Springwood going south and the added water that needs to flow under the first bridge there on Woodland. Once we start the engineering design, including those drainage improvements, we will take it to the regional plan and we'll have an exact cost and we'll have a scope of work for them to pick up, finish the engineering design with regional planning money, and then getting money from the state for construction. By us taking the lead on that, we can then ask the state to fund an in-house, like they did the 3-lane, to design and build the 4-lane to Woodland. With the continued problems with the bridge and the tunnel, this is a project that we can fast track in the event we see long-term shutdown of the bridge and the tunnel to have a good 4-lane highway connecting us to the higher bridge. Not to take away from the need for a new bridge there, but knowing that a new bridge there, whatever size we decide on, is going to take several years. This is something that we can start now and relieve some of the traffic problems. We have also asked the engineer design team on the bypass road, which because of delays in acquiring right-of-way, has pushed back the completion date to sometime in 2017. We have asked them, in lieu of the problems with the leaking of the tunnel and the problems we continue to have here in Belchase, to look at that schedule if it could be moved up, and we're hoping we can work with the land acquisitions in Jefferson Parish and the team to see that completion date moved up for that bridge to sometime in 2016. If we're successful at that, I think we're short about $40 to $50 million for finishing that bridge. If we get that updated schedule by the end of this year, we'll go to the legislator and the governor to try to move some of that priority money up next year to see that bridge finished in 2016. On the Belchase Bridge, the business community along the Harvey Canal, it was recommended to them or brought to their, at a public meeting, about the possibility of a 72-foot fixed bridge. And how did they feel? Would that hamper their business and ability to get large packages out of that canal into the river that are being constructed, because we don't want to see it limit their ability at all. They are assessing what their needs are, and they will, and the group will come back to the public here for another public meeting after they determine whether all those businesses will have no negative impact. I will personally contact each business to make sure that we don't see any negative impact to those businesses before we make a recommendation to the council and to the public that a 72-foot bridge, fixed bridge, is the best option that we're going to recommend. The good thing about 72-foot fixed bridge is they tell me it can still come down before Berry Road, which is important, and before Engineers Road, so we don't need a lot of businesses to be displaced and taken out. So hopefully in the next 2 months, we'll have something back to the public to look at, and if everything works out, the group of regional planning will put forth the recommendation of the 72-foot fixed bridge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Nungas, I wanted to maybe let everybody know, I talked to Mr. Sizer this morning, and he's telling me that the river stage is low enough now. They're supposed to start work very soon on the visitor center and start driving some pilings. The only other question I had for you is, do you know where we are right now with the courthouse, where we standing? We still waiting a few days for some RFPs, or where are we?
I think next Wednesday or Thursday, I think, they're due back in, and then we'll put the selection committee together to select a firm and move forward to evaluate all the proposals that y'all have already gotten, and then move forward with it. Okay. So as soon as, I think that deadline is next Wednesday or Thursday.
Yes, sir.
I also, Mr. Chairman, wanted to thank the council and publicly thank you all for your efforts in selecting a port chairman, port director. I sit on the Transportation Committee of the World Trade Center. Our president of the River Pilots is here, Jimmy. He was at the meeting. The people there were elated that we've selected such a fine gentleman to help lead us and develop the port in Plaquemines, especially with the widening of the Panama Canal coming and us having 100 miles of beautiful riverfront. Obviously, the river pilots have been so supportive in Plaquemines Parish and the whole team in this region, because we do provide 25,000 jobs for people from every parish in this state here in Plaquemines Parish. And I just want to thank the council for agreeing and doing such a great job at selecting someone so qualified. I'm excited, as was everybody at the World Trade Center group, that y'all made such a great selection. So my hat goes off to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Dungas, for your time. Do we have any beer and liquor licenses, Mr. Hinckley? None. Mr. Beers, Mr. Turner? Mr. Edgecombe? Okay. What's the number on it? Okay. With that, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and take the prerogative of probably trying to clear the room, and we're going to go to 4A1, NOLA Oil Terminal, Myrtle Grove area, install pilings, foundations, petroleum products, storage tanks, pipe racks, truck scale, pumps, and deep water docks. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. I know this is a rather contentious issue. I would ask, I don't know if we need the whole room to speak, but I'd advise everybody if you could come up and just give us a few minutes and not try to dominate the mic. And please be courteous and respectful of everybody else's remarks and comments. And give us your name and just an address of town where you live or something.
Good afternoon, Roy Karuba, 3621 Ridge Lake Drive, Metairie, Louisiana. My firm is the civil engineer in charge of the project, and I'm also one of the owners of the terminal. We're here today to thank y'all to be in front of y'all again. NOLA Oil Terminal is excited at the possibility of providing jobs to Plaquemines Parish, additional tax revenue, and to help develop the port of Plaquemines. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I know that's not it. Smudge? Huh? $19 million.
I'm Mike Mudge. I live at Myrtle Grove. This is an issue that's been before y'all in the past and has been on the table for a while. It's unfortunate that it made it to this meeting today with such little notice that a lot of the constituents would have been here today if we had a little bit more notice. And, but it is what it is. We have several concerns, and y'all have heard them from us in the past, and y'all have heard them time after time, so I'm going to try and be as short as I possibly can and not take up a whole lot of y'all's time. In the past, this council has voted against permits echoing the wishes of their constituents. We're asking that y'all do that today for us. We have some very, very serious concerns that have not been answered and until today, and I don't know if y'all even got answers to some of our concerns. We all know where it's going. It's going at Myrtle Grove. We all know the history of Myrtle Grove. We all know the history of the flooding. We all know the history of the highway, and we all know that that's one of our main arteries out of the parish during times of hurricanes and flooding. A concern with hurricanes and flooding would be a lot of their docks are going to go over the Mississippi River levee. Now, on a perfect hurricane, if they aren't destroyed, we have an evacuation route out. If we don't get the perfect hurricane and we get a dumb one that's going to go there and tear up all their docks and that levee, you have severed this parish in half as far as evacuation routes. That's a big, big concern of ours. That's a big, big concern of a lot of the people in this parish. Another concern is first responders. After every hurricane, first responders have to go into that area that's been low in floods every year, and they have to pull people out of the water, cattle out of the water, and everything else. That's going to be awful difficult if they're not only fighting the water, the elements, but they're fighting 100,000 gallons of oil. That's a very big concern. Another concern of ours is if you look at their plans, they plan to drain all their waste through the culverts under Highway 23 that go right into our homes and right into our backyards. It's the same drainage. The drainage system around their facility is the very same drainage system that pumps into our backyards. Big concern for us. I understand that there are people here that are for it because it will have a little economic impact and it may create a few jobs and it may generate a few tax dollars. The homes that we built at Myrtle Grove probably generate about, they're about $30 million in value collectively when you add all of the homes together. It's a green tax base. It doesn't intrude on anyone, it doesn't hurt anyone, and it doesn't impede any evacuation efforts that we may have during a hurricane. As far as the railroad and the trains, and I'm going to skip around on here because I've been making a couple of notes and it's hard for me to keep this all in sync. They're going to put a railroad spur in, and they're going to transport and export some of their oil, I'm sure, by rail. It only makes sense. What doesn't make sense is this council needs to consider, if you look just to the left, that's the railroad track. If you look just to the back of you, that's our high school. These railroad cars with this oil is going to pass within 100 yards of two schools. It's going to go right in front of the middle school, and it's going to go right in front of this school. Now, we're all saying they're going to move the railroad tracks. They're not doing it tomorrow, believe me. Another thing that has been sort of played down, because this has gone so long, early on in our first efforts, we presented y'all with a petition. The petition had over 250 names on it. Those names were real people, real voters, real taxpayers, not only from Myrtle Grove, but from the lower end of the parish that realizes the potential danger and the potential of them getting trapped at the lower end of the parish for storms. So we went, and we could have continued to get signatures, but we didn't. I mean, if 200 signatures, 250 signatures doesn't mean anything to this council, then 1,000 signatures wouldn't have made any difference. Our concerns, a fire. If a fire breaks out in that facility, how long would it take them to contain a fire? We're talking 5 million barrels of oil. And I'm not saying 5 million barrels of oil are going to catch on fire. Say 1 million barrels catch on fire, or don't even say that. 500,000 barrels, 200,000 barrels. How long would it take our fire department to respond to it? And after they respond to it and get there and regroup, how long does it take them to put it out? And where does this big smoke plume start and go and stop? Where do we evacuate? Where do we stop evacuating? These are all serious concerns. We touched over the draining. We talked about the smoke. The last thing that I'm going to hit on real briefly, and I think it's one of the main concerns, and I think it's a concern that you all need to seriously look at, is the zoning. And I don't know if you have your zoning books or you don't have your zoning books. The very front page of zoning on page 2, definitions, it gives you the definition of the word shall. And it says shall is mandatory. When you go to your I-3 zoning, keep in mind, I-3. On page 57 is where your I-3 zoning starts. If you go to page 60, it says environmental impact uses. Under environmental impact uses, it says shall be deemed. Right under the shall be deemed is a whole list of activities that are deemed environmental impact uses that are put in an I-3 zone so they are kept away from residences. In your zoning book, if you go to page 63, the definition of environmental impact use that shall be in an I-3 zoning is petroleum, gasoline, lubricating oil, refining, wholesale storage. That's the definition. The only thing it doesn't say in front of that definition is no oil storages. It describes that definition to a T. On their application, that's almost exactly the way they described it. Keep in mind, that says shall be deemed, and that is an I-3 and I-3 only. They are hanging their hats on the may be in the floodplain. May be considered, that's the clause. You may consider another commercial or industrial use in a floodplain if it's similar to. You may consider it similar to. But you have to keep in mind the shall be deemed is an I-3, and that's all there is to it. Once you read the shall be deemed, it's over with. I would rather stand up there all day long and have the shall on my side than the may on my side. Another thing that we are asking and another thing that we are looking at is we have had to hire attorneys to bring this to the forefront and to defend ourselves and to protect ourselves from an I-3 zoning right next to a residential application. If, in fact, that was an I-3 zoning area, we would not have been allowed to build a Myrtle Grove Marina. The council would not have allowed us to put residences right up against a heavy industrial usage with an environmental impact. So it appears that they're trying to back into a residential neighborhood. When you go to the floodplain, we don't have a problem with anything that's listed in that floodplain. If it's listed in that floodplain and economic development demands it, if somebody comes up and wants to put it in, we don't have a problem with that. We understood our zoning when we built there. Now, you have to keep in mind, this subdivision was put in by the council. The council put the subdivision in years ago because at that time, that was going to be the economic industry. The economic industry at that time was hunting, fishing, recreation, and we need to do some real nice waterfront properties to encourage people to move. We bought into that. We bought into that hook, line, and sinker. Now we are confronted with a I-3 development right across the street from us. And when I say it's right across the street from us, you have to keep in mind the difference between the two developments. If you go down Highway 23 and you hit Myrtle Grove, you make a left-hand turn, you'll turn into NOLA. If you make a right-hand turn, you'll turn into our subdivision. So we are asking y'all were elected to protect us, y'all were elected to protect our zoning ordinances. We're asking y'all to look at the zoning ordinances, because if this passes and you look at the floodplain and you feel that the may supersedes the I, you don't need this book, because then you have residential development and industrial development of any kind you want in the same neighborhood. And that's our biggest concern. Now, I will yield to anyone else. I'll be glad to ask any questions or answer any questions that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mudge. Mr. Metcalf, I've got one question for you right now, and we don't want to get in debate over this. I want a simple, this is for Mr. Metcalf. This property is zoned FP floodplain, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, is any of the things that Mr. Mudge is talking about or that's being addressed in this permit not allowed under floodplain?
My interpretation, the granting of this permit is solely at the discretion of the council because of the provisions in FP zoning classification, which in this case, because of the category of occupancy proposed here, for the council to have discretion as to whether or not the project is approved.
Could I ask him a question now?
Sure.
Do you have your zoning book with you? If you go to the I-3 part of the zoning, I think it may be page 60.
If it's your point, Mr. Mudge, that this would normally be an I-3 usage, I would agree.
I would agree with you also, but
Okay.
that's my question, and I'm trying to split hairs here.
I understand, and I'm not trying to split hairs, but what I'm saying is the verbiage in I-3 is shall. When you go to the very front of that book, the definition of shall is mandatory. You don't even have the discretion to even consider an application for you don't even have the discretion to consider an environmental application other than in a I-3 zone. The word is shall. If you look at the definition at the front of the book, it clearly says it is mandatory. Where did Farquhar go with mine? I mean, I'm sure it's in my slip. And I think this is a very, very key note here that we're looking at, and I think this is something that everyone needs to really understand. If you go to page 2, under definitions, Section 3, page 2 under definitions, it tells you, for the purpose of this ordinance, containing words, terms, herein defined, if you go to the very bottom of the page, it says shall, and it says shall is mandatory, not discretionary, mandatory. That means you can't think about it, you can't try to twist it, you can't try to distort it. It's mandatory, it shall. That is in your I-3, and that pertains to environmentally impact applications. You can't get any plainer than this. We're sitting up here and we're not splitting hairs. We're looking at the difference of the term shall as defined in this book as opposed to the term may. And I don't know how to make that any plainer. What we would ask and what we would like to see is the people of Myrtle Grove is taking this fight on, and we are spending our money to try and uphold this piece of legislation. Because if you look into the floodplain area and you go to the floodplain, once you go into the floodplain, if it's discretionary on this council to put an application of any sort in a floodplain, you don't need the rest of the book, because the very beginning of the floodplain is all residential use, camps, recreation, homes, R1, R2. So if you have the discretion to put an I-3 application next to the residence, you don't need none of the book. And that's exactly our point. If that was in fact a I-3 zoning, we would not be allowed to live there. I can't go on Engineers Road on an I-3 zoning application on Engineers Road and build a house. It's not allowed in the book. And the point we're trying to make is I understand these people are looking to develop. I understand that fully. But don't back into a zoning that you have no business being in. And going back to our stance, we have taken this fight on. We honestly think that this is y'all's obligation. This defends our zoning. If we don't defend the zoning for the people in this parish, we have nothing. So this is just as important for the people of Myrtle Grove as it is for everyone in this entire parish. Because if this precedent is set, you don't need this book. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mudge, for your time. Anyone else?
Ralph Herman, I live at 344 Myrtle Grove Road. And even if this was a discretionary situation, I would prefer that you would use good discretion and consider the people who live in the area. There's no way this gentleman from Metairie could go build his tank farm in Jefferson Parish next to a subdivision. It wouldn't happen. He comes here because he thinks we're easier and we'll get it done. And that's my feelings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Peterson, and I've been working with Myrtle Grove Marina Estates to try to figure out this issue, specifically with the zoning requirement. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate something that Mr. Mudge said and make sure that the council really understands the precise issue here. This proposed project is located in a floodplain zoning. And under the zoning ordinance, it says that any construction or anything in this area is going to be, it shall be limited to, and it specifically lists residential and recreational purposes. And there's a little catch-all at the end that says the council may consider other similar uses, meaning other residential or other recreational uses of the property. And the concern of the homeowners association and of the residents of Myrtle Grove is that this is industrial, it's surrounded by residential neighborhoods, and it's going to seriously cause some problems for them in the future. And I just wanted to make sure that you understand that the shall language is also in the floodplain zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Dale Adams. I have a resident at 113 Victor's Road in Myrtle Grove. I don't understand or have all the knowledge that Mike has about all the zoning. The only thing that scares me is it brings back Murphy Hall. And during a hurricane, those people were saturated. And I'm sure Murphy Oil took all the precautions that they were supposed to have, and they were left in a mess. And that's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
My name is Randy Loop, and I live in Myrtle Grove Estates at 120 St. Rosalie. And I'd just like you all to use good judgment because of the nature of allowing this in this location. I think, is compromising our neighborhoods in the surrounding areas. So I'd like you all to use good judgment when you're considering this or not considering this.
Thank you, Randy. Anyone else?
Arthur Henry from Belchase. Listen, I've been coming to these meetings for a long time. You know, it's funny, the law works in a mysterious way, and I know I might offend some people here, but it is what it is. You know, way back in about 10 years ago or more, Oakville had that same problem. People that was on the council, hey, they didn't care, they didn't really care about the situation, but the people in Oakville. But now all of a sudden, it's a wealthy neighborhood now. The environmental issues are still the same. They're still the same. That's all I'm gonna say on that issue.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Anyone else? Mr. Turner?
I have a couple of things. First, Mr. Henry, it's important that everyone gets involved, and I agree with you. The Oakville issue, there was a major violation there. But this issue that's before us today, I heard it stated by Mr. Mudge and Mr. Metcalf that this really is an I-3 type business. Is that correct, Mr. Mudge? I-3, right? Okay. So, with that in mind, we acknowledge that this warrants I-3 rating, but we're hanging our hat on the fact that it's currently zoned as floodplain. So I want to address the floodplain issue in two ways. One, I want to read a letter by Mr. Biso, and then I want to go to the zoning laws. Mr. Biso sent this letter back March 6, 2013. It says, I met with former Councilman Mike Mudge yesterday concerning a proposed NOLA All Terminal, which claims it is scheduled to open in October 2013. This facility is to be located in an area zoned floodplain, and in my opinion, let me stop here. Mr. Metcalf, Mr. Biso, who was Mr. Biso to this parish and the zoning board? What was his position? Just so we know who we're talking about.
Let's clarify was or is.
Zoning consultant for Plaquemines Parish.
Was or is?
Was.
Was.
Zoning consultant for
Okay,
Plaquemines
thank you.
That's how I thought I phrased it. But how long was he the zoning counsel for the parish, roughly?
My understanding, he was zoning consultant for quite some time.
Was he considered an expert?
I guess it would depend on who you would ask.
I'm asking you because as the official, we hired him as an expert. I just want it made public. Was he considered as an expert?
I can't answer that question. It calls for subjecture. I don't know. It depends on who you talk to. I don't
Okay.
know.
He was our expert.
He was here for a long time. I would assume he was a trusted consultant.
Okay. And if we had to go to court, who represented us?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
All right, Mr. Biso. So he was our expert. So in this case here, Mr. Biso is saying, I stopped mid-sentence, and he said, this facility is located in an area zoned floodplain, and in my opinion, it is not permitted use in such a zoning district. It appears that the facility is attempting to take advantage of a serious flaw in the zoning ordinance. I think the flaw is illegal in that it gives the council discretionary zoning powers, which I believe exceed those granted by enabling legislation. I'll stop there on that piece. The next piece I have is, let's go to the actual zoning law. On page 65, and thanks for allowing me to use your book, Mr. Mudge. I don't have a copy of it, Mr. Metcalf, if you can, either you or Mr. Mudge, read the definition of a floodplain on page 65. At least that's where it is in your book. I'm not sure where it is in his.
Metcalf, read it. It's on page 65.
Page 65, definition for floodplain. Would someone read it for me or give me a copy of it? I'll read it either way.
Here, Mike. I can read it if you want. Where are we? Let me just read this. We'll read it into the record if you wish. The regulations in the floodplain district are permitted uses. This district is intended to compromise those areas which are subject to periodic or occasional inundation from stream overflows, storms, and tidal conditions, and which are not within publicly owned hurricane protection levees and pump drainage systems. The use of property and buildings or structures in the floodplain district shall be limited to the following. All the following residential, commercial, and industrial structures or buildings when they meet the requirements of the parish building and sanitary codes.
Mr. Chairman, that's sufficient in what I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover the definition. Those are examples of it. And the point I'd like to make and a part that I'd like for you to highlight is where it says floodplains are those areas that are not within a public levee system. In that definition you read, is that correct? On 65, it says the areas that are not within a public levee system.
Doesn't say that here. If you want me to read it, I can read it into the record for you. I can finish it.
No, the part you've already read. Read the part you've already read again.
You want me to
Or
repeat
give it to me and
myself?
I'll read it either way.
It says all of the following residential, commercial, and industrial structures or buildings when they meet the requirements of the parish building and sanitary codes. And I've got a list here if you'd like to go through them.
No, that's right here. You have your copy, Mr. Metcalf? Permitted use. The district is intended to comprise those areas which are subject to periodic or occasional inundation from stream overflows, storms, and tidal conditions, and which are not within publicly owned hurricane protection levees and pump drainage systems. That's what constitutes floodplain. Anything outside of the levee system, Tidewater Road,
Correct.
Grand Bayou, Myrtle Grove Estate, outside of the levee system. Doesn't say federal levee system, but it says public levee system. Now, since this government has taken ownership of the citrus land levees, what once was private when this was, I'm assuming when this was drafted, but today it is public. And because it is public, it does not meet the definition of floodplain. Now, we haven't taken the steps to change the zoning, but by definition, floodplains are areas that are not within public protection hurricane levees. Today, the area that we're talking about and that is still classified as floodplain are now within a public levee system. Whether we deem them adequate or not, they are within a public levee system. So if we're hanging our hat on the idea that they can move forward with this because we have discretion over permits in a floodplain area, I agree with Mr. Bisso that what we are classifying today as floodplain, according to our own definition, is improperly characterized. And therefore, we have to rely on the I-3 zoning. My issue remains the same as when this first came up, and that is, one, I believe it's a zoning issue, and that they have to follow the procedures and seek the correct zoning. They cannot put this I-3 in what we have zoned as a floodplain, but according to our own definition, is not a floodplain area. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
And I agree, and to sort of simplify it, y'all have maps on file that are the official floodplains of this parish. These maps are on file in the engineering department, they are on file in the permit department, and have been on file since 1975. 1975 was when the first flood maps came out. These are on file, and it, in fact, without a doubt, says floodplain. The Myrtle Grove Marina subdivision is in a floodplain with a residential approval because it says you can put a residential approval. You can approve almost anything you want in the floodplain with the exception of an environmental impact usage, because it says it shall be in an I-3 zoning. That is the entire issue here today. Even when these levees are built up and it goes back before the zoning for hearing and consideration to maybe change the floodplains, that doesn't necessarily mean that the definition won't change also in the verbiage periodic flooding due to hurricanes, tides, or whatever could still very well be in there. So you could still, in fact, be in a floodplain and be within a hurricane protection levee. And that's neither here nor there. We'll cross that bridge in the future. But today as we speak, the floodplain maps are very, very simple. It's floodplain. This ordinance, of zoning ordinance, is as simple as could possibly be. If they wanted there to be any confusion in this, they would not have put the word shall, and they would not have defined shall. It's as simple could possibly be. And there again, I'm asking, in the past, y'all have had difficult decisions, and y'all have always voted on the side of the constituents, and we're just asking for that same consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munch. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this legislation, I'm going to ask that it be deferred.
Thank you, Mr. Turner, but I'm going to call a question on it today. Do we have a comment or question from anyone? Machine is open. Anyone more?
It didn't register.
Mr.
but I
Turner?
voted.
Okay, thank you. And the permit is granted 5-1 with a no vote from District 6. Let's go through some of the others. We have 4A2, S2 Energy LLC. I'm going to try to take some of these in globo. S2 Energy LLC, South Pass area, Block 41. Install power clusters, re-enter a plug well and drill a state lease. 2566, location number 1, and install well head protector. Okay, thank you. 4A3, Swift Energy Operating LLC, Saturday Island Field, will wash and remove existing storage tank that was relocated by Hurricane Isaac. 4A4, Lobo Operating Incorporated, Breton Sound Area, Block 32, install power clusters, drill the state lease 1227, location number 26, and install wellhead protector. 4A6, Plaquemines Parish Government, Bell Chase area, drill 1 saw boring, Bell Chase number 1 pump station. 4A7, Plaquemines Parish Government, Scarsdale Road, drill 1 saw boring, Scarsdale pump station. 4A8, Plaquemines Parish Government, Port Sulphur area, drill 1 saw boring, Hayes pump station. 4A9, Plaquemines Parish Government, Bayou Grande Lord, Triumph area, drill 1 saw boring for that pump station. 4A10, Plaquemines Parish Government, Duvick Canal, Boothville, drill 1 saw boring. 4A13, Hellas Oil and Gas, LLC, East Black Bay and Black Bay Field, repairs to an existing 10-inch pipeline after the fact application. Texas Petroleum Investment Company, Delta Duck Club Field, install 4-inch flow line and hot tap. 4A15, Hillcore Energy Company, South Pass Oil and Gas Field, install platform, 2 boat docks, and 8-inch gas pipeline. For A17, Dune Operating Company, Gordon Island Bayfield, hydraulic dredging, install pile clusters, drill the Epsilon well number 001, install wellhead protector and 6-inch pipelines. And we'll take these in globo. There'll be 4A2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, and 17. I'm going to offer and ask for a second. Second. Okay. Second from Dr. Gui. Do we have any comment or question about these permits? Hearing none, the machine is open. And these permits are granted 6-0. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move to (4A11), which will be deferred at this time. We'll move to 4A5, Chevron Ornite Plant Bellchase, excavate to replace existing subsurface fire water system, piping, fire hydrants, and fire monitors. And 4A16, Chevron Pipeline Company, Bayou Long area, removal of 42 bulkheads and all associated pilings. I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Mr. Turner, will you be present and not voting, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any comment or question about these two? Hearing none, the machine is open on 4A5 and 4A16. And they're passed 5-0. We'll move to Anthony, 4A12, be good? 4A12. This is 4A12, Alderman and Associates Incorporated, Bellchase, Jesuit Bend area, drill 14 saw borings. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Burris. Do we have any comment or question about this one? Hearing none, the machine is open. Mr. Hinckley? And that permit 4A12 is granted 6-0. The final one is 4A18, Louisiana Fruit Company, IDF Road and Tiger Pass area, installation of a wharf. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gui. Do we have any comments or questions about this one? Hearing none, the machine is open on 4A18. And this one passes 6-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we'll go to 4B, which we'll defer at this time. 4C, I think Ms. Cooper wanted to go ahead with this one, didn't she? Let me defer it since she's not here. Mr. Hinckley, 6A1. Huh? Sir? 5-minute recess? Yeah, I'm going to just ask for a 5-minute recess. Mr. Beers, ask for one. You. Let's go to item 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Hinckley?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for the lift station St. Anne Dr. Gorman project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the drainage Oak Tree Road project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to appropriate $170,000 for the design and improvements of the Bellchase Sewer System project. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2013 Operating Expenditure Budget, Civil Service Department line item, professional services, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance revoking occupational license number 025833 of Miss Lisa's psychic readings and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Dr. Cooley. I have none. We do? I'm sorry. An ordinance to amend the Public Health Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, ambulance department line item vehicles, major repairs and otherwise to provide respect thereto. And a resolution authorizing Parish President Billy Nungesser to establish a checking account at the Regions Bank for the Plaquemines Parish Hazard Mitigation Program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing the Parish President William H. Nungesser to accept a donation for reverse emergency calls operations and to amend the General Fund 2013 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, Homeland Security / Emergency Preparedness Department, otherwise provide respect thereto. A resolution approving the acceptance of a Capital Outlay Act appropriation by the State of Louisiana for the Emergency Evacuation Complex, Planning and Construction, FP&C Project Number 50-J38-12-02, in the amount of $500,000 and authorizing President Billy William Nungesser to sign all documents and act on behalf of Plaquemines Parish and all matters pertaining to this project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the Parish President William Nungesser to act on behalf of Plaquemines Parish Government in all matters pertaining to the Emergency Evacuation Complex, project number 50-J38-12-02. Okay, same thing, all right. State of Louisiana Division of Administration, Facility Planning and Control, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council, as on behalf of the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority Board of Louisiana, the West Bank Levee District, Plaquemines Parish, and Plaquemines Parish Government to appropriate perpetual flood protection levy and flood wall easements, temporary work area easements, perpetual road easement, and temporary road easements in certain proportions of lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to construct the West Bank and vicinity, Mississippi River Levee, Mississippi River and Tributaries Project, hurricane and storm damage risk reduction systems, resilient features, English turn band to Belle Chase, WBV-MRL 4.2 baseline stations, 253 plus 00 to 324 plus 00, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. Project for Mississippi River levee, flood, and hurricane protection purposes and otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all I have. Mr. Vieras?
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the drainage Jesuit Bend project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Peters Road Bridge and Extension project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing the parish president to continue the implementation of the Plaquemines Parish Coastal Plan using funds from the Coastal Bonding Initiative and granting permission to perform the initial necessary task related to permitting, surveying, geotechnical, and engineering activities for subdivisions of the Reach A Vegetated Ridge and Marsh Creation Project, which include the Reach A-4 Oakville to La Receipt, Reach A-5 La Receipt to Myrtle Grove, and Reach A-6 Myrtle Grove to St. Jude, Vegetated Ridge and Marsh Creation Projects. That's all I have.
Good job.
I have none.
None, Mr. Turner? I have several from Mr. Edgecombe. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the repairs to sewer lift station number 24 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Empire Boat Harbor Complex project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Port Suffolk Government Building Waterproofing Project, authorizing Parish President William Billy Nungesser to hire a firm to engineer, design, and construct said project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt ordinance number 13-66 to include the West Bay Marsh Creation Project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That needs to be corrected. Right? An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt ordinance number 13-52 to add the West Bay Marsh Creation Project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I believe that's all we have, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. 6A1, Mr. Hinckley. 6A1 will be withdrawn. 6A2 will be deferred. He could. Defer. 6A3 will be deferred. 6A4 will be deferred, withdrawn. 6A4 will be withdrawn, I'm sorry. 6A5, Dr. Gouy? An ordinance creating a temporary portable storage container permit required in the parish of Plaquemines or council districts blank, authorizing Parish President William Billy Nungesser upon application to issue a temporary portable storage container permit with options to renew consistent with this ordinance, repealing ordinance 08-62, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Dr. Gouy, you offering?
I need to fill some blanks.
Okay, sir.
We need to fill in the blanks on line 5, where it says council districts, insert 2, 3, and 4. On line 42, insert $20. And on line 2, 3, and 4, I'm sorry, on line 46, insert 2, 3, and 4. And I'll offer with those changes.
Second by Mr. Hinckley. Do any?
Yeah, well,
Dr. Gouy, go ahead.
we have a ordinance 0862 that the council passed a while back. And in practicing and with that ordinance and enforcing that ordinance, there were several shortcomings that had to be addressed. What this ordinance does, it addresses those shortcomings. It will allow for residents in districts 2, 3, and 4 to apply for a permit for a pod, which is a temporary storage unit. It gives the provisions for the application, the fees, the penalties for violation, and the like. In many of the subdivisions in Belchase, we have had a problem with the use of pods for purposes other than what they were originally intended for. And when those violations came to the surface and we tried to do something to correct the problem, we didn't have the proper language in the ordinance, and this one will correct that. I'll answer any questions. Mr. Metcalf is here. The parish attorney's office is here. If there are any questions by anybody on the council or in the audience. Yep.
No questions? The machine is open, y'all. So 6A5. And the ordinance passes 6-0. 6A6, an ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council, as on behalf of the Bureau's Levy District, to appropriate perpetual flood protection levy easements and temporary work area easements in certain portions of lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to contract P17A with the New Orleans to Venice, Louisiana Hurricane Protection Project, Bureau's Levy District, West Bank River Levy, emergency levy repairs in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, for levee drainage, flood, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Burris. I went through this last night, and I didn't see, I'm sorry. What this is a levee project in the Burris area. Well, it's echoing, that's why we're trying to do that, Mr. Terrell, either. It's a levee project in the Burris and Sunrise area. That's been approved by the Corps, and something that definitely needs to be done. They're actually pulling out some of the riprap and changing out. We just had a ship collision on that side of the levee. That's part of it. And also, they'll be moving some of the levee, adding to the height of the levee, and pulling some T-wall and some of the other things that failed during the last hurricane, that type of material out, and replacing it with earth and levee. Do we have any questions about this one? Comments?
Mr. Chairman, do you know when this project is supposed to begin?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
I think this is the final approval on it, though. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, the machine's open. And 6A6 passes 6-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Edgecombe, 6A7.
Defer.
6A7 will be deferred. 6B will be deferred. 6C will be deferred. 6D. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Extension Walker Road project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Beers, your offering.
I'll offer as read.
I'll second. Mr. Beers.
Mr. Chairman, several months back, the administration came to this council requesting money from various capital outlay projects for other worthwhile projects that they deemed emergencies at the time. If the council will recall, several of us took money out of projects in our districts to give money to the administration to purchase equipment and to make repairs at a water plant. This is one of such of those items whereby $250,000 was taken out of a project in my district. We've gotten the rollover money. The promise was that when we got the rollover money, we would get our money back. I'm asking for the money back.
Thank you, Mr. Beers. Do you have any comment or question about this one? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the ordinance is passed 6-0. 6E will be deferred. 6F, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to employ, with the approval of the parish council, special counsel to represent Plaquemines Parish government in legal representation for any court of law and to render legal advice regarding enforcement of Plaquemines Parish ordinances 12-238, the Borough Pit ordinance, particularly with regards to Plaquemines Dirt and Clay LLC. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Hinckley. Give me 1 second, gentlemen. Thank you for your second, Mr. Hinckley, but we are going to defer 6F at this time. Mr. Edgecombe, 6G.
Defer, sir.
6G is deferred. 6H, Mr. Hinckley. 6H is deferred. Okay, 6I, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Baptiste Colette Deepening Feasibility Study Project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. For what I understand about this, I mean, I can read the whole thing out, but under the WRDA Act, and we were awarded through the federal government, through the state, $3,750,000 for work on this Baptiste Colette project. But there was $25,000 for a study involved with this that will not be covered in this money, and the money was spent on it already, and I think it needs to be reimbursed from the best of my knowledge on this. So I would ask everybody to support this, and we can go further along with this project. Do we have any comment or question about this one? Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to express my opposition and the reason for the opposition, and that is when we first got in office, this wasn't during your term, we approved $250,000 for a study of Baptiste Colette. That study was completed in December of 2010. After the new council came on in 2011, within the first quarter, the administration was able to get another $200,000 from the state for a study of Baptiste Colette. And during that time, as a matter of fact, the day we voted on it, I had spoken to 3 levels of the Corps that very same day, and they said that the study was not needed. So the attitude of the council was that this is a grant. This will not cost the parish anything. And so now we're spending, someone has obligated us to spend or have spent $25,000 above what the grant was, and for that reason, I don't know who authorized it. That's why I'm in opposition to it.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Anyone else? Hearing none, the machine is open on 6I. And it passes 6-0.
Mr. Chairman, that was, would like to do a reconsideration. Meant to hit the no vote, just to make it clear. Can we do a reconsideration just for the record?
So we got to vote on what? Vote? So we got to offer it and second that one? Okay, I'll offer, Mr. Turner's offer reconsideration. Dr. Gui saying second. This is for reconsideration only. Okay. Do we need to revote, or do I need to reread this? Just vote on it? Okay, so now the machine is open again on 6I. Okay, and it passes 5-1 with a no vote from District 6. 6J. 6J will be withdrawn. 6K, Mr. Turner?
Going to defer.
6K will be deferred. 6L will be deferred. 6M will be deferred. 6N, Mr. Hinckley. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Woodland Highway Bridge Road Expansion Project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Hinckley, are you offering?
I'm going to offer.
I'll second. Mr. Hinckley?
Mr. Nungesser touched on this earlier. These are the two bridges that are on Woodland Highway. The other thing that I'd like to touch on is that it's a serious safety factor also, that those 3 lanes, that we're ending up with like a suicide lane. People are using that center lane as a passing lane down Woodland Highway, so the faster we can move forward on this project, the better it would be there. So that's all I want to say.
And this is for design, correct?
This
Because the
is for the
state will not pay for
bridges.
design,
They
correct?
won't- That's what Billy was saying. The state won't pay for the design of bridges.
They'll pay to build it, they just won't pay to design it.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Anyone have any comment or question
And
about this
also,
one?
I'd like to
I'm
also
sorry.
touch on this. This also has an impact on drainage. There's some deficiencies at the Industry Canal drainage right there where the water's choked up, so, which drains all of this side of District 4 and District 2 off of Main Street that way, going through Industry Canal. So by making this bridge wider and larger, it's also going to allow a better flow of water for drainage.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Any other comment or question about this one? Hearing none, the machine is open. The ordinance is passed 6-0. 6O will be deferred at this time. 6P will be deferred at this time. 6Q, an ordinance to amend the General Fund and Firefighting Fund 2013 operating revenue budget line items, sales and use tax audits, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Dr. Gui. Basically what this is it's showing 2 amounts on here, an equal amounts of $2,062,500 for a total of $4,125,051.78. I don't know where the 78 cents comes from, y'all, but I did call Ms. Gisosal and ask what this was about. And what it is was an underpayment of taxes, some due to somebody's consternation and not understanding what was taxable and not. Some of it might have been due to deliberate underpayment of taxes, and due to Ms. Saul's audits and her diligence, we managed to collect another $4.1 million plus that will be going back into the general fund and the firefighting fund, and it's split obviously in 2 sections because they're 2 obviously separate funds. So I would certainly ask y'all to approve this. Any comment or questions? Hearing none, the machine's open on 6Q. And it passes 6-0. Thank you, gentlemen. 6R, resolution to authorize the parish president for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government to provide compensatory mitigation by means of a permittee responsible mitigation plan to offset wetland losses as required by Title 33, Section 332 of the Code of Federal Regulations for impacts associated with construction of Plaquemines Parish government's East Bank levee lift, New Orleans District Corps of Engineers permit number MVN-2011-1995-E00, and MVN-2011-1974-E00, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I will offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gui. What this is it's showing less than 21 acres of mitigation that we're going to have to do for some of the levee lift work that we're doing, and we're responsible for this. We're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.8 million. Mr. Nungasser seems to think we have the money for it. We'll just have to take this as it comes, but it's broken down if you look on the last page, and it shows the different amounts. But this is something we obviously have to do to get the levee work done on this project. So I would certainly ask y'all to support this. Any comments or questions? Mr. Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I'm only comment on it is that this stresses the importance of us having our own mitigation bank. So now we're going to pay $1.8 million in mitigation fee, and it's going to go to another parish, possibly another state, and there's no reason for us to not have our own mitigation bank at this time. We should not be, with all of the coast restoration problems we have in Plaquemines Parish, we're going to send $1.8 million somewhere else, simply because we haven't acted and formed a mitigation bank. We need to do better.
Mr. Turner, I fully agree with you. Anyone else? Hearing none, the machine is open on 6R. Mr. Turner? And the resolution passes 6-0. Thank you. 6S will be deferred at this time. Also T. 6T will be deferred. 6U will be deferred. Don't run yet, Keith. Okay, we're going to go to new business. 7A, do we have, Mr. Turner, do we have any public comments regarding Hurricane Isaac?
Does anyone have anything concerning Isaac? No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any update or presentation by District 6, sir?
Yes, sir. Do I have a couple of things that I'd like to bring up? What I'm checking, Mr. Chairman. I'll pass at this time. I think we're going to cover the items I wanted to discuss in further on down the agenda. I'll pass over.
6C will be deferred. 6D will be deferred. 7E.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief statement on 6E. And
7E.
was going to have a discussion on it, but I appreciate Mr. Beeris's action on withdrawing the legislation, and so because of that, I won't go there. So
7F.
appreciate that, Mr. Beeris. Yes, discussion regarding the port millage. It was mentioned to me that, I guess at this time it'd be fair to say it's rumored that we're entertaining a port millage, and so for the public and for transparency, I just want to ask the council, because we're all members of the port also, is that in fact being entertained? This was brought to my office that we are entertaining passing a tax for a port millage, and so I just want to do it in a public setting, just for the record. That way, if it comes up a year down the road, we can't say we didn't know. If we know, then let's say we know that this is going on. Does anyone have any comments? Any knowledge? Does anyone, even in the public, does anyone have any knowledge of a port millage? That's all I have, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman, on
Mr.
that
Turner.
one.
We covered 6G. 6H, Mr. Warren Lawrence, I think you want to give us a little briefing on something, sir? It says discussion of Ram Coal Terminal by Mr. Warren Lawrence.
Yes, my name is Warren Lawrence. I reside at 120 Timber Canal Lane in Myrtle Grove. I want to start by thanking Mr. Marinovich for scheduling me, and also thanking my wife for letting me come. The comments I'm making are strictly my own personal ones, don't review anything as far as associations I belong to. It appears that a great injustice has been done by the Department of Natural Resources by scheduling a public hearing for a proposed permit on a proposed project, Ram Coal Terminal, to be located on the west bank of Plaquemines Parish, 1 mile west of Ironton, Louisiana, 4 miles northwest of Myrtle Grove. I am not here to discuss the merits of the proposed project. I am here to make you and the public aware of the procedure used by DNR to obtain public comments, and if you find it was a fair and just procedure. I found out about this public hearing approximately 2 weeks ago from Devin Martin of the Sierra Club, who brought out pamphlets, which I know the councilmen have copies of. And I started my inquiry as why a public hearing for something proposed on the West Bank would take place in Davant, Louisiana, and not at a location on the West Bank, the vicinity of the proposed project, and where the greatest effect would take place, both good and bad. I contacted my representative, Mr. Leopold, and asked him, and stated my complaint, and asked him to investigate and call me back. He did call me back on the way to the meeting today, and it made known to me and asked me to address you on the fact that he has contacted DNR and he is trying to adjust this meeting to move from Davant to here. I don't know if that's going to take place, but before I wrote my notes, I didn't hear that. That was on the way to this meeting. At that time, I contacted also my senator, Mr. Lario, got no response. I then contacted the Department of Natural Resources, the department that scheduled the public meeting, and asked that the director, Mr. Stephen Schutz, please contact me with reasons of the selection. On August the 1st, Mr. Morgan, assistant to Mr. Schutz, called me and said that give me reasons for the public hearing. He says nothing was available on the west bank of Plaquemines Parish to have these hearings, and he attempted to have them in Chalmette. At that comment, I asked him, why didn't he pick Alexandria? After much prodding of Mr. Morgan, he finally told me who booked the hearing. And he said to me it was through Mr. P.J. Hahn's office. I contacted Mr. P.J. Hahn, and after speaking with Mr. Morgan, Mr. Hahn told me he would contact Mr. Morgan, that he didn't know anything about it. But he would also check with his staff to see if someone in his office did speak to Mr. Morgan and stated he would call me back after he investigated. He never called me back. On Monday, August the 8th, I again contacted Mr. Hahn, and he apologized for not getting back with me, but he did speak with his staff and that a staff member had booked the Davant site without his knowledge. He stated Mr. Morgan of DNR never returned his call and would send him an email and contact me back. I haven't been contacted back. On Monday night, at a District 6 meeting with Mr. Turner, I discussed the problem and requested he inquire if anyone had requested a meeting site for August the 14th on the west bank of Plaquemines Parish. He stated, or his secretary called me back, Ms. Audrey, and stated that no one had contacted them about using a site on the west bank. On Tuesday, I spoke with Mr. Ranovich, and that's when I asked to be placed on the agenda. He graciously allowed me to come. I would just close and say that I think this is a slap into the public's face that, and I'm not getting into the merits of the project, but that a public hearing would not be held in the vicinity of where a project is to be built. Mr. Morgan called me back again and assured me there was no underhanding operation that took place in this, and that this is fait accompli. It's done, it's been properly advertised, and it will take place in Davan. I don't know if this will change per my conversation today with Mr. Leopold, but I do ask the council for one thing, if you would, and one thing I got to add, Mr. Leopold told me, he asked me to address you on it, this is not council business. This is state business. And that's all I ask, is they are using a parish facility. I would ask you to withdraw their permission to use Davan, and we have already booked Bell Chase Auditorium, and let them relocate the meeting to here. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Mrnovich, stating this council's objection to the scheduling of the meeting on August 14th in Davan, which is far removed from the site where the facility is being proposed, and that our council chairman send a letter on behalf of the council voicing that objection, and at the same time, if possible, to cancel or take away the facility at Davan on that night and find a suitable date that the hearing can be held at the Bell Chase Auditorium. How would that go?
That night is available right here. If they would just transfer the hearing to here, there would be no change.
And I think if we make that request as the governing authority, because it is a state issue, and I think it's ridiculous, but I'd make that motion and...
Second.
And vote on it, just like that.
Do we have any comment or question about what Mr. Lawrence had? I would also agree with Dr. Gui. I found it a little facetious that they would put this across the river also. And I think, Mr. Lawrence, you had actually called and asked if you were basically told that the building wasn't, you were told by the officials that this building was not available. And then when you called in and asked if you could book the building, you were told the building was available. Am I correct?
Mr. Turner's office called and asked, not myself. And he actually booked this meeting this night to the 14th. As Audrey said, they booked it waiting for the president's approval of using it.
Okay.
You have to have unanimous vote to take it up from the floor, and then we vote on it. You have to have unanimous vote to take it up from the floor.
On a motion?
On a motion, yeah. Because it's not on the agenda.
Okay, hold on one second.
For suspension of the rules, take up a motion.
Just suspend the rules first.
Okay.
You suspend the rules first and then vote.
Handle it.
Okay.
For just so we could procedurally be correct, what I'm going to do is, at this point, withdraw that motion and ask
I'll
for...
withdraw my second
Yeah,
first.
and withdraw that motion, and we'll ask for suspension of the rules to take up an item not on the agenda. To wit, all the stuff I said before.
You making a motion to suspend the rules?
Suspend the rules to take up an item
I'll second
regarding
that.
the coal terminal.
I'll second that. And this is simply a vote on the suspension of the rules on this item,
And
gentlemen.
we need a unanimous, in case you don't know. And I'll revert back to that motion. Our secretary has the language and ask for a second.
I'll second.
Good. I don't think we need any further
Any comment or
discussion.
question about this?
We have that, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Devin Martin, 620 Ricks Place, New Orleans, Louisiana. I'd just like to say that the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources policy on coastal use permits is that there's a 30-day notice before they have any public hearing. So if they were to cancel the hearing next Wednesday, their policy would probably require them to put out another 30-day notice. I just wanted to make y'all aware of that policy.
That's fine.
Whatever.
Mr. Turner?
Mr. Lawrence, I did do a follow-up with the Office of DNR, and I ended up speaking to Mr. Keith Lovell, and in that conversation, what he communicated to me was that they made an attempt to use this specific facility, but was told that it was not available the entire month of August, not just that date, the entire month, including the date that we are meeting here today, when you say the entire month of August. Now, we can't blame DNR if we or someone in this government has communicated to them that this place is not available. And at least twice during the conversation, what he stated was, and I'll quote, he said that the place was not available. He was told the place was not available, meaning this place here, because the parish was, because we were displaying parish quilt during the month of August,
Let's get back on track and vote on this.
the entire month of August. And that's what I'm looking for, the quilts. And so, and he told me that on more than one time. We first tried.
It will be.
We first tried there, meaning this place, and was told that it was not available. He said, as Mr. Lawrence stated, that his office coordinated this with Mr. P.J. Hahn's office. He did mention St. Bernard, and again, he mentioned that they were told here, as far as this facility, that the month of August, they couldn't use the building during the month of August because the parish would be displaying quilts. So what I proposed and what I asked him to do, I said, okay, if we can't change the location, we now know the building is available, then have another meeting. And he said, well, it takes 30 days to advertise by law. I said, well, you've already met that requirement with the first meeting. So if you have the meeting on the East Bank, you've already advertised for that. I said, there's nothing that prohibits you from having a second meeting on the West Bank. His response was that regulations don't allow us because of the 30-day advertising. Well, after we've talked, he said that he has to check with his legal department because, again, there really is nothing that prohibits them from having another meeting. He just didn't think that they would do it and running it by legal. If we do take the approach of canceling the building, then they wouldn't have a choice but to do something else because they couldn't have it here, Alexandria or St. Bernard, unless they advertise within 30 days or a 30-day notice. And so if we take the action, and let me ask the question. Mr. Good, the legislation that you're putting on the table or have put on the table, is it to cancel or disallow the use of the facility?
That was my thoughts.
Okay.
To say the facility is no longer available.
On that date.
On that date, and I'm sure there's due process we have to go through, but that's
Right.
not the point. The point is, if you want to make friends, you work with them. This here is ridiculous, and it's not making any friends. This is just putting a bigger barrier between those people who are in opposition of this and those who are providing the permits. We should try to do stuff to make things more accommodating, and that's all we should say. We say this needs to be more accommodating, and I think that's what the intent of the motion is.
Very good, sir. But have you read it? Or would you read it again? Because I want to be clear on it. Is it disallowing it? I don't recall how it reads.
Well, that makes two of us.
Okay. Well, this is
Ms. Kim?
A motion to disallow the use of the building on that date, which was
Very good, the 14th.
August 14th.
August 14th.
The facility is
to
no
the-
longer
to the
available.
Department of Natural Resources.
I'm good. I'm good.
And also that the location, we're requesting the location be in the Belle Chase area.
More accommodating for the
Sure.
residents, and Belching area preferably.
Very good. But just for the record, and I agree with that, I fully support that legislation, appreciate you guys bringing it up. Wait, but the issue is that, in this case, according to DNR, they were only following instructions. Now, regardless of the reason, we still don't want it on the East Bank because of the reasons stated. But DNR on this one really is not to blame. They were accommodating.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
That's all I have.
So we're going to vote for the motion right now. The machine is open. This is disallowing the use of the building on that date to DNR. And it's unanimous vote, 6-0. The building will not be allowed to be used that date by DNR. We're going to withdraw. Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
I will be withdrawn. J, Mr. Turner? Armstrong Cole, Sierra Club?
Yes, Mr. Devon will share a few comments on Armstrong
This is
Cole.
a discussion regarding Armstrong Coal and the coal trade. It's passing through Belle Chase by Devin Martin with the Sierra Club. So why don't you give us your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Devin Martin. I live at 620 Ricks Place, New Orleans, 70114. I'd just like to speak briefly to the council. I appreciate Councilman Turner and the rest of the council for allowing me to speak to you today, as well as speak to the public of Plaquemines Parish a little bit about the company that's backing the Ram Coal Terminal, as well as a couple of issues with the rail line that they'll be using to ship coal to their facility. I think this is information that everyone in the parish needs to know, as it affects not only the folks who would live near the terminal, but anyone who lives in this parish, as this rail line cuts the parish in half, more or less. Armstrong Coal Company, once again the primary backer of Ram Terminals LLC, is a Missouri. They're based out of St. Louis. Most of their coal mines come out of Kentucky. They're a company that expects to export 6 to 10 million tons of coal overseas through their planned terminal here. Although it may be seen as an economic opportunity, the situation of the company currently and the markets indicate that RAM has a very good chance of falling through on the backs of taxpayers here in Plaquemines Parish. The coal company has very bad finances currently. According to credit rating agency Moody's, Armstrong's bonds are rated as basically junk bonds. It's B3 rating, which have a substantial chance of defaulting. Its prospectus from 2011 revealed a very high debt and plummeting net earnings. Other coal producers in the region are suffering as well, with stock prices that are next to nothing compared to previous years. And Armstrong's main purchasers are buying less coal well into the next several years because coal plants are being shut down across the United States, which reduces revenues, allowing them to invest in capital projects such as RAM. The company is also facing a litany of lawsuits over royalties and broken contracts. Some of these lawsuits are for millions of dollars more than the net earnings of the company in 2011. In addition, the international coal market is sort of faltering at the moment. India is cited as being bullish on coal, which is one of the targeted nations for export, but it's under increased pressure from environmentalists and facing growing corruption scandals that affects the bottom line of businesses across the country. Its citizens that live on less than $2 a day are generally unwilling to pay for higher grade coal with higher shipping costs, which is what U.S. coal is. China's GDP is also slowing rapidly, and central bank is sitting on bad debt from financing from a housing boondoggle sort of like our own we had here a few years back. It's placing tougher pollution restrictions on power plants and increasing investment in renewables, degrading their demand for coal, which is the market that RAM is attempting to break into. The domestic market also is shrinking very quickly. I won't go into too much details on that. The other issue that I'd like to bring forward is the fact that the RAM terminal, unlike the existing coal terminals in Plaquemines Parish, would be connected to the New Orleans Gulf Coast Railroad. They intend to use that railroad to receive shipments of coal. assuming that they use the railroad exclusively and do not get shipments from barges, which is unlikely. But let's assume that their entire volumes of coal, which is expected to be between 6 and 10 million tons per year, comes from the railroad. That equals about 4 coal trips a day on this rail line here, the one that passes through the town of Belchase, the one that passes through every single town all the way down to Myrtle Grove, including the Alliance Refinery, the Oronite plant, and several other sensitive industrial and residential areas. Coal trains are uncovered. The coal on the rail cars is allowed to flow out by dust and wind blowing them. Dust suppressants are sometimes used, but there are no dust suppressant installations anywhere in Louisiana at this point, meaning that by the time the coal gets down here, these coal trains will be blowing dust anywhere near their rail lines. And here in Plaquemines, we know we have lots and lots of homes that are very, very, very close to this rail line, also including schools and the high school right here. Some of the issues that we've seen with coal trains and coal rail lines in other parts of the country are very serious, and we need to take these into consideration. Turning the New Orleans Gulf Coast rail line into a coal conveyor belt would cause significant traffic delays at our crossings. It could affect emergency vehicle response times, interrupt the flow of commerce, and compromise other rail uses. This is particularly important here where we have a large section of homes in the parish that have no other access outside of their homes unless they cross the rail line. We've seen in a place in Houston where we had an environmental justice community surrounded by railroads complaining that they had no access outside of their community because of the high volume of trains that were passing, blocking their community off. And they were actually concerned that if someone had a medical emergency, an ambulance would not be able to get into their community if there was a train that was delayed, blocking their community off. And actually, last year, the unthinkable happened where a man in that community had a heart attack, an ambulance was called, but a train was blocked up in the way, and the fella died because the ambulance could not get to his home. So we have what I'm estimating at least 100 homes in Plaquemines Parish from the Alliance Refinery up through Belchase that are completely blocked off, including the nursing home that's there by this rail line. So this is a serious, serious issue. We need to take into consideration what kind of traffic this terminal is going to bring in before we allow it to move into the parish, because the parish does have the discretion to grant local construction permits. Some other issues, coal trains are longer, heavier, and louder than other trains. Typical coal trains are 100 to 150 rail cars long. There is a few grain trains that pass through Plaquemines that go down to the grain elevator that approximate that length, but the volumes of coal would most likely be much, much larger than the volumes of grain that are heading down there currently if this terminal operates to the capacity that it would like to. The horns would become a source of noise pollution. There's also the major issue of dust pollution and diesel pollution from trains. Diesel pollution causes disease and fugitive coal dust by the rails and the terminal site, sullies land, water, and air. We know that coal dust is toxic and especially harmful to young people and the elderly, especially folks who have respiratory problems or asthma. When you have coal dust days and high winds, folks with asthma sometimes have to remain inside and can't come out because of the cold problems. I know it's a serious issue. My grandfather mined coal for about 15 years in eastern Appalachia, and he died of black lung because of that. Another serious issue is decreased property values, losses to local businesses, opportunity costs, and possible infrastructure and upgrades to deal with increased rail traffic in the parish. I have here a report from Entrepreneur Magazine that talks about the effect of freight railroad tracks and train activity on residential property values. They did a study in Ohio in the 90s that estimated that homes that are within 750 feet of a used freight lane, especially if that freight is using it's heavy freight or bulk freight like coal dust and creates coal dust, they could lose anywhere from 5 to 7% of their value. So combined with the financials of this company and the well-known effect of destruction of property values when you bring in more freight, especially dirty freight like coal, the parish could actually see a situation where we're expecting tax revenues to come in from this facility. But if the company that backs the facility goes bankrupt and no longer exports coal, we don't have that expected tax revenue, but the tax revenue we were getting from property value is decreased. So by building this terminal, there's a real potential for setting yourselves up for losing tax revenue instead of gaining it in the long run. That's all I have. I do have copies of this article. We'll also have a much more in-depth financial analysis of Armstrong Coal that should be available next week upon request. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Martin, if you want to forward it maybe to the Secretary's office, she can get it to all the councilmen so they can take a look at it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to take a few comments on the District 6 update, one item we had passed over. Just moving to it, and that is elevation of the road in the Ironton area that came up at the last council meeting, the elevation of the road, and the question was, how high would it be elevated in the Ironton area? From Ironton to West Ravenna Road, according to Ken Dugas, we've looked at the maps, and it seems as though all we're going to be getting there is just a 2-inch overlay from that piece. When you get to the Ironton, between Ironton and Myrtle Grove, he's estimating, looking at the drawings, that it might be in the area of a 1-foot elevation compared to what is currently there. Now, that's going to vary as the road goes up and down. And what we were able to ascertain from the information is that we're looking at an overall +2 elevation across the board.
+2 inches.
2 feet.
Okay.
+2 feet elevation overall. So some areas going to come up higher than others. In the Ironton and Myrtle Grove area, you're looking at pretty much 70-11, let's call it a 1-foot increase of what you have. And from Ironton to West Ravenna Road, you're looking at probably a 2-inch overlay. And as you go further south, it's going to vary. And that's all I have on the update on the road and the elevation in Ironton and Myrtle Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. If we have no further business, the last thing I have is approval of minutes, A, B, C, and D, June the 13th of this year, June the 27th, July 11th, and July 25th. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Burris. Is there any comment or question about this? Not, the machine's open on approval of the minutes. And it's passed 6-0. I'll take anybody want to entertain a motion? Mr. Hinckley make, huh? No. Mr. Hinckley's making a motion to adjourn. Dr. Gouy seconding. Machine is open on the adjournment. And we are adjourned at 3:46.